Hey there, Dango Stu here. Today's video is about putting the trawler on the hardstand for the first time and is proudly sponsored by marineengine.com. So this video kicks off with me taking the boat upstream towards the marina and finally seeing what it looks like under the waterline. Unfortunately, it also happens to be during a bit of a record-breaking heat wave, so it was one of those days.
It's 35 today. It's going to be scorching hot standing on an asphalt hardstand under a steel boat, not a steel boat.
Somewhat predictably, the marina's running a little bit behind schedule, which happens, you know, it's no problem. They just said hang around the bay here for a little bit. I blame Howley though, because his boat's coming out before mine, so it's clearly all his fault. Alright, Marina just called, said they're dropping a little blue yacht in. When it comes out, head in, so let's go. How'd you go this morning? Nice. So I'm just chilling out at the moment. Nice little chairs and umbrella area. Very nice. So I'm just chilling out while they give it a scrape down. I think they might burn it afterwards, not sure, find out. Otherwise I'll do it myself. And then we'll go and have a look at the hull. Alright, all the scraping and the gurneying's done now. Now they're going to put it on hardstand. So here we are under the hull now. There's definitely plenty of bad news, but talking to the guy at the marina, he said, look, I've seen a lot worse and it's all fixable, so, you know, that's good. The big question for me now is, do I try and find like somewhere cheap, like a bit of dirt somewhere to stick the boat for a couple of months and do lots of work on it? Or do I simply do the best I can in a week or so, get it floating, save some money and make a plan for the future? So I've got to decide about that. So I'll show you the bad news first. So about the worst of it is that the anodes have been eaten away completely and there's a hole through the keel where the anode strap is closest to the mild steel. Real no-brainer. Once again, I was talking to the shipwright and he said, don't worry about it, just put a patch on. About the only thing that probably be worse than the anodes being completely gone is being not gone at all because they weren't well connected to the hull, so that's something, at least they did their job. The hull itself doesn't look too bad. There's a few dodgy spots, but by and large it actually looks alright, which is good. A few of the skin fittings need attention, definitely. Rudder looks to be stainless steel, which has eaten away up here, the flange and the rudder post here, so that's definitely going to come out. So first job for me really is taking this rudder out. I think that's critical. Cutlass bearing here has a bit of play. If I use two hands I can actually, there we go, you can see there's movement there. Other than the transom having some pitting, this is the worst place I can find, this little spot here, right up near the bow. So I'm definitely going to clean this out and do a bit of welding in here. This skin fitting's lost its strainer altogether, and this one's not looking like it's going to last much longer. So this is going to have to come up, get fixed up. This one's going to have to get replaced. Actually, to be honest with you, I've got to see what this one goes to, because I notice only one of them's open. So if it's not used anymore, I'd actually rather cut it off and just weld it up. This here, little paddle wheel for a speedo, but never going to use that now. GPS is here, so I may as well cut this off and weld it up as well.
Alright, first thing I'm going to do is undo the two bolts inside here from the steering arm so we can drop the rudder post down.
First off, I'm actually going to undo these four big bolts at the bottom here and see if we can get this off. Yeah, I think I'll undo these top ones. I've got a 24mm socket here, but I don't have a 24mm spanner, only a 22 and a 27, frustratingly. So I'm going to try and just rattle the nuts off and see if there's enough sort of resistance in the shanks of the bolts for them not to spin. We'll see how far it drops. Doesn't look that heavy. Alright. I don't know what there was on top of this surface, but it actually looks like I'm almost tempted to say a thin sheet of copper. Curious to see if that's the done thing. Didn't even have to undo the last bolt, it's so corroded the flange at the top. So you can see the flange for this rudder post and the shaft here is really eaten away. The metal of the hull around it doesn't look too bad, which is good. So I think it's because this is what was in contact with the stainless steel without any insulator, and then there's the bushing in the shaft here, or the bearing in the shaft, which I think is protected, insulated the hull as well. So now I'm going to go up and see if I can drive this down somehow. Can't really see how I can pull a puller on here except maybe grip here and push against the hull or something, because you don't have a centre shaft to push on like a flange normally would. So I'm just going to see what I can do.
What I'm going to do first is undo this clevis pin from the hydraulic ram, just to make sure, and all my kind of, you know, persuading that I don't damage this in any way. Looks like it's just a split pin in here, then a washer, so it should be pretty easy.
I'm going to have to figure out some way of getting the rudder post down in order to either replace it or repair it. Probably replace. I've been told you can get a thing called a port power or something like this, which is a really small hydraulic ram, so you can kind of get it in, push it a little bit, drop it, put a wedge in, push it down. And I think that's probably what I'm going to need to do. I'm only here for 3 days and it's not going to happen here. That's all there is to it. I've got two options. Slap a bit of primer on without really even preparing the surface. There's probably a whole lot of conversation, but you know, steel boats are a bit like lepers in a boatyard. They really don't want you doing anything on it. They're happy to blast it for you, they're happy for you to paint it and put it back in the water, but pretty much nothing else. I had read that and I wish I'd believed it, but it turns out it's very true. If you've got a steel boat and you intend to do anything beyond very basic, quiet, dust-free maintenance, you're going to need to find a yard to put it in for some period of time. So, I think as all this sort of work that needed doing, you know, pulling a steel boat out for the first time, it's never going to, you know, exceed your expectations. I mean, let's be honest. So there's a bit of work to do. I was encouraged by some very nice guys around the yard who work on boats all the time and said, mate, I've seen worse, it's definitely fixable. You know, he said, I just make friends with someone who can weld. I said, I can weld. And he said, well, you're fine, just don't stress, it'll be fine. And I went, oh cool, like that was, honestly, that's what I needed to hear at the time, because it was a bit stressful. I think if you're familiar with the hype cycle chart, there's this sort of peak of inflated expectation, and that's what you go through when you buy a boat. And then very rapidly when it comes out of the water, you go through this trough of disillusionment, which was probably where I was at this morning when viewer Mark turned up, so thanks for a friendly face. And you kind of pull yourself out of it. You go, all right, look, this is what I need to do. I can't do it here. A bit of a bummer because you pay a bit of money to come here, and then you're really realising there's very little I can do other than inspect what needs doing. I'm lucky because I've got 2 solid leads on somewhere I can put the boat for an extended period of time and do the work I need to do, so that's cool. Having looked around the hull further, I've probably spotted half a dozen spots max that I think need a bit of weld to fill some shallow, you know, some depressions. I am going to buy myself one of those ultrasonic depth gauges so I can measure the thickness of the metal just from the outside and do a real survey of the hull. The transom's worse than the underside, and the skin fittings definitely need some attention. Because there's no way I can get that rudder post out, find a replacement or fabricate a replacement by Monday, I've really got no choice other than to put it together and use it to get to its next destination, which is literally just a couple hundred metres up the bay, so there's no dramas there, we'll make it. So yeah, live and learn. I wish I'd asked more questions about exactly what I was able to do. I think they were a little bit vague. Yeah, you can, but keep it to a minimum. There's a guy who comes here, encases the entire boat in a tent and can do a dustless sandblasting, but no, apparently steel's too noisy, so they can't do it, even though it's not a dust issue. So, you know, these things you kind of find out as you go, and maybe I could have asked more questions about that beforehand. I think I've gone through the low point and just starting to think about solutions now to how I can solve this problem, and all the problems are fixable. Actually, my main priority now is just finding somewhere where the boat can sit for 3 or 4 weeks while I really just attack it, you know, and be free to do that, be free to make a little bit of noise and a bit of dust, you know, and I kind of get it. You know, I'll show you. Next to me here, nice little grand banks. They've just been painting anti-foul and polishing it, you know, and there you are with an angle grinder, right? You know, I get it. So I need to find somewhere more suitable. I've got a couple of days to put the rudder back in. I believe it to be stainless steel, the whole thing. So I can chuck it in the back of the car and then I can take to the workshop where I'm allowed to do what I want, my workshop. And why wheel it clean? I guess my question is, what do you do with stainless steel? I wasn't expecting this. I'm presuming it's okay just to wire brush it. I could actually even take it and get it sandblasted, epoxy coat it and anti-foul it. At least then the rudder's done, so that's tempting. So any advice for the treatment of stainless is greatly appreciated. The other thing I'm going to do is take this little mother-in-law off and take it back to the workshop. I've been meaning to experiment with using electrolysis to clean things up for a while, so I figure this is a good candidate as a bit of an experiment. I'm going to have a go at using electrolysis to clean this up, so we'll do that as a separate vid. But for now, I'm going to duck down to the local oyster farm and have a chat to them and see about finding a space to put this for a month or so. Had a few beers with the guys. That's where all business is done. And sounds like we've got a place we can put the boat, which is great. It's going to be about $1,000, so apparently the space is reasonably cheap, but we need to get a crane down to lift it out, obviously. And it's about $1,000 for the crane, but at least then we've got a month or so to do the work and then put it back in. So I think it's worth it. My only real regret is putting it at a regular marina, but live and learn. There you go. But while I was here, a young guy called Brett who works here, lovely guy, he's doing his own wooden boat, which I'll show you. There it is. And it's an old Navy boat. Also has a couple of Detroit diesels in it, and he's doing it up and it's, you know, coming along nicely. But he also gave me this. So this is a leakage monitor. I don't really know much about it, but I get the impression it's about having shore power, but having that shore power monitored. So it has a few plugs here and here. So I'm going to do my homework on this. I'll look it up, see what we can do. But because his boat is a timber boat, he has no interest in it. So scored a freebie at the same time. So this is the space that Rob has said I can use to work on the boat. We'll have to get it up here on a really high tide, about a 2.1 next week, which is about as high as it gets, so that should be good. And then we can just drive a crane down here and lift it out, put it on acroprops and push on. So everything else is organised now. My only real last concern now is the depth of water here, but we'll find out in 2 days' time. I think it's a 0.6 at the moment, so hard to judge, but I'd say it's probably going to take like a 0.9 or something to cover here. So we're only going to have a bit over a metre of water. Sitting here by the water now, waiting for Dave to pick me up. Good chance to contemplate my poor life decisions, but you know how it goes.
Come on, Eddie, you can cheer me up.
Oh, what's happening, buddy?
Don't drop them.
What's happening, buddy?
Sight for sore eyes you are, Eddie.
In the end, it turned out to be a bit of a long and frustrating day, but you know, I do feel like I've got a bit of a plan now. Tomorrow morning on the 2 metre tide, I've got a crane coming down. It's shallow, but I'm going to try and, you know, get in there. We'll see what we can do. Then I'm just going to start doing it properly. I'm actually glad now in hindsight it kind of panned out this way. I wish I'd gone straight to a more long-term hardstand, but live and learn. Now I'm going to do the full servo, the hull, I'm going to replace any thin plates so I've got confidence in the boat. I'm going to sandblast it. I'm going to epoxy prime it. I'm going to replace that rudder post. I'm just going to try and do everything I can in that first month and get it as seaworthy as possible so that next year it's a case of just pulling it out, re-anti-fouling. I'll keep working on the top sides once it's back in the water, but for the next month or so, I'm just going to focus on, getting the hull in good shape. The marina kindly said they will lend me some stands, so I'm going to get it up there and use those stands to support it at its new location. And then my first job is going to be fabricate some of my own so I can give those back. I spoke to the sandblasting guy while I was at Fenwick's. He has a mobile setup on a trailer with a diesel powered compressor. He'll tape up plastic around the whole boat and he'll do it in less than a day. So I've got a card from him, so I'm really pleased to know that's, the way I'm going to go. It's not cheap, but I don't know, I'll raise the money somehow. Alright, well thanks for watching. I'll be filming again tomorrow morning when we pull this boat out of the water, hopefully for the last time this year, and we'll just start pushing on in earnest. Alright, well take care, I'll see you then. Bye.